You spent 3 hours writing implementation narratives for ATO. You uploaded your artifacts, you clicked Submit. 2 weeks later, your SCA sends the whole thing back marked non-compliant with a one-line comment. Insufficient detail to assess. You don't know what's missing. Your ISSOM is asking why the package is stalled. Your ATO timeline just slipped. That's what we're fixing today. This video walks you through exactly how to write an implementation narrative in MS that an SCA can assess the first time. No theory, no abstract frameworks, just the structure, the language, and the common mistakes that get packages returned. If you're an ISSO in your first year, this is the video I wish someone had made for me. Here's what most people get wrong. They treat the implementation narrative field in MS like a description. They write what the control is. ATO requires the organization to manage information system accounts. That's the control text. The SCA already knows that. It's printed right above your narrative on the control detail page. What the SCA actually needs is how your system does it, specifically on this system, with names, tools, frequencies, and locations of evidence. The implementation narrative isn't a summary of the control. It's your claim that you've satisfied each assessment objective in SIST SP 800-53A Rev 5. The SCA will read your narrative and then check it against those objectives one by one. If your narrative doesn't address an objective, that objective gets marked non-compliant. It doesn't matter how well written the rest of it is. Let me give you a structure that works every time. I call it mechanism, scope, frequency, evidence, 4 pieces of information per assessment objective. Mechanism is the tool, process, or configuration that implements the control. Active Directory, Splunk, assigned SOP, whatever actually does the work. Scope is what it covers: all privileged users, all external-facing servers, all systems within the authorization boundary. Be specific about what's in and what's out. Frequency is how often it happens, continuously, every 30 days, upon account creation annually. The SAA needs to know the cadence matches what the control requires. Evidence is where the proof lives: the artifact name in MS, the scan report, the policy document. Tell the SAA exactly where to look. When you cover those 4 things for each assessment objective, the SAA can map your narrative directly to their assessment procedures. That's what makes a narrative passable on the first try. Let's look at a real example. We'll use AS2, Account Management, from NIST SP 800-53 Rev 5. This is a moderate baseline control. Every ISSO will write this one. AC2 requires the organization to define and document account types, assign account managers, establish conditions for group and role membership, authorize access, create and enable accounts, and meet other requirements. The full control has subparts labeled A through L, plus several enhancements. Each one of those subparts generates assessment objectives in 853A. Here's a weak implementation narrative. I've seen versions of this dozens of times. AC2 is implemented. The system uses Active Directory to manage user accounts. Account requests go through the help desk. Accounts are reviewed periodically. Inactive accounts are disabled. That's 4 sentences, and none of them are accessible. Periodically doesn't tell the SCA whether you meet the required frequency. Account requests go through the help desk, doesn't say who approves them or what the approval criteria are. INIF accounts are disabled, doesn't define inactive or specify how quickly. The SCA can't check any of these claims against the assessment objectives. Now here's a strong version. Act 2A. The ISSO maintains a list of authorized account types: standard user, privileged, service, shared, in Appendix F of the SP reviewed and approved by the ISM annually. AC2. The system administrator creates accounts in Active Directory. Only after receiving a signed DD-2875 system access authorization request with ISSO approval. Group membership is assigned based on the role matrix in Artifact ACT2 Role Matrix Bots XLX, ACT2J. The ISSO reviews all active accounts every 90 days using a PowerShell export from Active Directory. Review results are documented in the quarterly account review report uploaded to EMAS as Artifact ACT2 Cardate PDF. Accounts with no login activity for 35 days are disabled by the system administrator within 5 business days of identification. ACT2-3. The system automatically disables accounts after 35 days of inactivity via Active Directory Group Policy, Object Your Org Inactive Exonct Policy. The ISSO verifies GPO enforcement monthly using STIG checklist results from the ACAS scan. Scan report uploaded as Artifact ACT23 acasdate.nessus. That's accessible. Every sentence has a mechanism, a scope, or a responsible party, a frequency, and a pointer to evidence. The SCA reads every 90 days and checks the assessment objective for ACT2J. They open the artifact you named. They confirm the dates match. Satisfied. Next objective. That's the workflow you're supporting when you write this way. Now, the obvious question is, do I have to do this level of detail for every single control? Your moderate baseline has roughly 325 controls. That's a lot of writing. The answer is yes, with 2 shortcuts. First, you batch controls by implementation type. Every control that relies on Active Directory can share information about your ad configuration. You write that paragraph once and reference it. Second, you use templates. And I'll tell you where to get those at the end of this video. But first, I want to show you something that will change how you think about this entire process. I want you to stop thinking like an ISSO for 60 seconds. Think like the SCA. Your SCA opens your system in a mass. They click on a control. On the left, they see the NIST control text. Below that, they see your implementation narrative. On the right or in a separate section, they see a list of assessment objectives pulled from 800 to 53A. Each objective has a drop-down labeled compliant or non-compliant. Their job is to read your narrative, review your artifacts, and determine whether each objective is compliant. That's it. They're not reading for style. They're not impressed by length. They're doing a checklist. If your narrative doesn't mention an objective, they can't mark it compliant. They won't assume. They won't infer. They'll mark it non-compliant, type a one-line finding, and move on to the next control. They have 325 controls to get through. They don't have time to chase you. When you understand that your audience is a person with a checklist, you stop writing essays and start writing evidence maps. That's the shift. 3 rules I follow for every narrative I write. Rule 1. Map to assessment objectives explicitly. If ASSE2 has assessment objectives, A through L, your narrative should address each one. I label them inline. You saw that in the strong example. ASSE2A, ACT2D, ACT2. The SCA shouldn't have to guess which part of your narrative covers which objective. Remove the guesswork. Rule 2. Name your artifacts in the narrative. Don't say see attached. Say Artifact ACT2 CAR Q1, 2 FAP SUI 6 bot TDF. When the SCA reads your narrative and sees a specific artifact name, they click over to your Artifacts tab and find it instantly. If they can't find it, they mark it other than satisfied. Every artifact reference in your narrative should match an uploaded file in a mass exactly. Rule 3. Use measurable language. Replace periodically with every 90 days. Replace promptly with within 5 business days. Replace as needed with upon detection of a configuration change. Your SCI can't assess a subjective word. Give them numbers, dates, and triggers. Quick round of traps I see ISSOs fall into. Trap 1. Copy-paste the NIST control text as your narrative. The SCA reads your narrative and sees their own reference material repeated back to them. That's an automatic return. Trap 2. Writing one narrative for the parent control and ignoring the enhancements. AS2 and AS2-3 are assessed separately. If your baseline includes the enhancement, it needs its own narrative. Trap 3. Referencing artifacts that aren't uploaded yet. Your SCA will check. If the artifact isn't there, the finding goes to non-compliant, and you've created a POA-MAM you didn't need. Here's what to take from this. Your implementation narrative isn't a description of the control. It's your answer to every assessment objective the SCA will check. Use the mechanism, scope, frequency, evidence structure, label your objectives inline. Name your artifacts, use numbers instead of subjective words. If you want a head start, I built the SSP and Control Statement Template Pack, which includes pre-written narrative templates for the 50 most commonly assessed moderate baseline controls. Each template follows the MSFE structure, maps to 853A assessment objectives, and includes placeholder fields for your system-specific details. Fill in the blanks, upload your artifacts, and submit a package that your SCA can assess on the first pass. Link is in the description. If this helped, subscribe. I publish one video a week on practical RMF for working ISSOs. See you next time.